we've really latched on to the verse in the Old Testament, Micah 6:8, where it talks about walking humbly with God and loving mercy and acting justly. And we're saying that's what we want to be about.
Lights so bright. Are you ready? Let's go. Let's make this music flow. Let's take it to another level. Let's show the whole world what they all need to know. Christ is alive and he's coming back for yo. This is the sound of a hurricane. Representing God, so representing no other name. The sound that is passing you by. Heaven-bound parade.
Welcome. I'm Craig Young, and this is the Going Home Show, a place where we look at people, families, ministries, and churches, and seeing where God is moving through his people.
Steve, you've been pastor for quite some time in this city. As a leader in the city, where do you see the church going?
If God's calling you to be attractional, be attractional. If God's calling you to be missional, be missional. If God's calling you to do both, do both. Just let's go be the church.
Another week here at the Going Home Show, and a friend now, through a good friend, a mutual friend of ours, Pastor Steve Sumby. Thank you for coming by.
My pleasure.
And this is going to be fun because we've had a chance to just talk a little bit, and I think that you're going to be excited by some of the stories and some of the ways that the ministry that you're a part of and that you're joining in with the work that God is doing. So talk to us a little bit about your background, the community that you're part of, how long you've been a part of Sandwich Baptist for.
Sure. I was originally in Vancouver. I was working as a paramedic 22 years ago. I was going to Regent College part-time. And
Okay.
and a number of people said you should look at getting into full-time ministry, and God led through a bunch of circumstances, and I ended up in early 1990 at Sandwich Baptist Church as their youth pastor. So
Yeah, like youth ministry. What was that draw?
it was just something I was doing. I was active in North Van. There was a church there called Sutherland Bible Chapel.
Okay.
And when I wasn't working, we were there. We were active there. We were leading their youth ministry there. So it was just kind of a natural progression to go from being a volunteer heavily involved in youth ministry to getting into ministry full time. And so that was the next step. Victoria was home, grew up here.
Yeah.
So it was coming home. So,
Yeah. It's actually going home.
Go.
But-
I'm close. Told you I'd give you some bloopers. There
That's
you
right.
go.
That's right.
All right.
So you've been there, started as a youth pastor
did.
for quite some time.
Right.
And so talk to us a little bit about that journey.
Sure. Got there, was a youth pastor for several years, and the first year of ministry, not only was I trying to figure out what ministry was all about, but we were building the building that we're on Wilkinson Road, and we were starting to do that. So it was really a baptism by fire. It was crazy the first year, just trying to figure everything out. And after we moved into the building, kind of ministry and everything settled out, and we started to grow, and God was doing some really good things, and went through a time of youth ministry. Then Bob Holmes left, and a fellow by the name of Jack Glubker came in as the senior pastor, and we continued to grow and got to about 150, 180 people, and we looked for another person to come on staff, and that was Darren Phillips. He came on as our youth pastor, so I moved up to associate pastor, which meant doing everything that Darren and Jack didn't want to do. So it was kids ministry, it was adult ministry, family ministry, everything, and did that for a number of years, and then in 1998 became the senior pastor.
Cool.
Yeah.
And just continue to grow through that whole
process. You know, one of the nice things now is, having been there for 22 years, I'm able to, you know, say I've been involved in youth ministry, I've been the associate pastor, I've been the senior pastor. Not only do I really understand the DNA of the church, but also I understand what my associate staff now are going through and some of the struggles they're having, and I can relate to it. So it's been a healthy journey.
Yeah. And how about you as father, as dad, as husband? Like that's tough. You know, you're ministering to a large congregation.
Well, it's been quite a journey. I mean, when I came, we were 80 people, and you know, now we're over 700. I mean, it's been a wild journey, and so, you know, over the years, from youth pastor, associate pastor, senior pastor, we've gone through different stages of growth. I'm a type A person. So I'm fairly driven. Some people would think I'm more than a type A person, but I mean, so, you know, I like to see things move ahead. I work hard, and I can work long, but at the same time, I've always tried to make it a priority to make sure I spend time with my kids and my wife. Huge importance to me to make sure that I put the big rocks, Stephen Covey talks about it, you know, put the big rocks into your schedule first. I've done that. So when my kids were growing up, I made sure I took time to go to their field trips. I was the field trip dad. Kids had a field trip, I was there for their field trips, you know, and so always made sure we had a lot of time for vacation every year, and tried to make sure baseball games, they went into the schedule. You know, my son's a triathlete, so as many, unfortunately, a lot of them are on Sundays, makes it kind of tough, but always make sure I book off a few every year so I can go and be at his events. So as much as possible, as they've grown, I've tried to be involved in their interests and tried to be there for them, and not let ministry win. Sometimes it has, and but I've always really fought that balance and tried to really make a very conscious effort to make my family a priority.
Awesome. So, this is a question I have for you. Victoria is been touted as the unchurched, the least church, and stuff's happening over at Sandwich. Like, the ministry is growing. What's going on? What's happening? What's the whole this unchurched thing in Victoria?
Well, it's true. We live in I've been told we live in the least churched place per capita in North America. So we live in a very non-religious city. West Coast lifestyle will do that to you, right? People here love the lifestyle. They have everything they need, and they just don't sense that need to connect with the church. I think people have unique ideas of what the church is, and a lot of that is negative. And so what we're trying to do at Sandwich is we're trying to say, how can we get people to begin to speak differently about Jesus and his church? And what can we do to do that? And we've really latched on to the verse in the Old Testament, Micah 6:8, where it talks about walking humbly with God and loving mercy and acting justly. And we're saying that's what we want to be about. Both corporately and individually, we want to be a church that walks humbly with God. We want to be people in a church that walks humbly with God. And then we want to act compassionately, both to people in our congregation, but also people outside our walls, and we want to act justly. We want to deal with some of the issues that are causing people to be in bondage and to be poor and all those kind of things. So that's what we're about, and in doing that, we're really trying to push ourselves beyond our walls and be externally focused and not be a holy huddle and not what I call, and others have said, hunker in the bunker mentality, but get out and be the church in the city.
Yeah. And so, at your church, when you walk in, right before you walk into the sanctuary, you have something written on the top there, or is it on the reverse?
It's when you're leaving.
Right, okay. Yeah. Well, as you walk out, there's this, and what does it say?
There's a sign over all our doors as you walk out that says the church is leaving the building, let's go serve the city.
Yeah, awesome. And so that's one of the bigger sort of parts of church is serving the city.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We do it formally twice a year. We take a Saturday, and then in the fall we take a Sunday. We cancel our services on that Sunday, and we just go out throughout the city and we serve in about 14, 15 different locations. Hundreds of us just go out and serve, help nonprofits and other organizations, help individuals, just serve them. Just go out and bless them in the name of Jesus.
One of the things that I've noticed is that your church is very outwardly focused in serving the city, but as well, you have a nice facility.
We've been blessed.
So talk to us a bit about this attractional, missional, like what is that?
One of the things that really, I don't know about you, really tires me in the Christian community is we spend so much time arguing about stuff that is just ridiculous in my mindset. Like, are you missional? Are you attractional? Who cares? Just be both and go do it. Go do what you need to do in the name of Jesus. If God's calling you to be attractional, be attractional. If God's calling you to be missional. If God's calling you to do both, do both. Just let's go be the church and let's go make a difference that honors God and blesses other people. So for us, it's all about, our primary thing is living out Micah 6:8. That's what we're about. And part of that is let's go out and serve. That's a big piece of what we want to be about. And as we serve, people begin to speak differently about Jesus and his church. And as individuals in our church do it, their neighbors start to speak differently about Jesus and his church. And so a natural next step is to say, well, come and check our church out. Come to a service on the weekend. And that's where the attractional piece comes in. That people will come and they'll come to our church, and then one of the things we say all the time is we want to accept people where they are. We don't expect unredeemed people to live redeemed lives. We just want to accept them where they're at, and then we want to challenge them to take the next step on their spiritual journey with Jesus, whatever that next step is.
Right.
And so for us, it's we want to be totally missional, and we want to be totally attractional. We want to be both because we think you need both. And I'm not into saying let's have big arguments about it. I said just let's go be what God's called us to be, give him the glory, and let's go do it. There is sound. It comes after the third second.
Okay, you want to distract him?
We hear a lot about pastors and leaders just falling, whether it's whatever that may be. How do you stay sort of grounded and not distracted by other things?
I'll tell you the number one thing for me, other than I think the important thing is to stay in the Word. Do have your own time where you're walking with Jesus quietly by yourself. Those times of solitude, number one. Number two is have truth tellers in your life.
Okay.
Have some people in your life that are truth tellers. I have two friends. They're in ministry, but they're not in the city, who are real solid truth tellers in my life. And I get together with them both fairly regularly, and they will just call me to account and hold me. And then I've got a board, and part of our elders' agenda every month is my life. It's not just my ministry life, but it's my personal life. And I open them up and say, hey, ask me any questions you want about anything. And they're very open to do that. And so have truth tellers in your life that can ask you the hard questions.
That's really good, because I think you're right about the hard questions. If you have people that are asking you those hard questions, you can't hide from that.
You can't hide because and I've been very fortunate. I've had good friends on staff, and so they know you really well, right? And you're not going to be able to hide from your good friends on staff because they're around you. You let your wife speak into your life, let your kids speak into your life. Just let people speak into your life and be truth tellers in your life. Really important.
We've talked a lot about serving the city. We've talked about locally. You also have a very strong missions focus, world, global, whatever you want to call it.
Sure. We decided some years ago that we were going to do things differently. And we decided rather than have sort of the shotgun approach to missions where you're supporting, 50 missionaries, $50 a month, that's fine. Churches want to do that. We just decided for us we were going to do it a different way, and we were going to be more like a sniper bullet and sort of really laser in on a couple of areas of the world. And so our missions sort of focus globally is developed into sort of twofold, if you will. The first is any individuals that go out from our church anywhere in the world, and we've had individuals go out to Thailand, we have a couple now, a family in Tanzania, we're going to celebrate it, we're going to support it, we're going to pray for them, and we're going to be all over what God's doing in their life. But the area that we've really zoned in on is a little village down the Baja of Mexico called Vicente Guerrero. We really feel called to that area of the world, and we've been down there for several years. We've built a number of houses, we've done some other initiatives, and we've created our own mission down there now called Mission San Quintin. In fact, I think either today or tomorrow the Mexican authorities are signing off on everything, and we'll actually have an official non-profit in Mexico called Mission San Quintin.
Let's talk for a little moment about the blessing in being a part of missions in this way.
Okay. Well, you know, whether it's our Serve the City days or our small group serving or people in our church serving, or whether we're going down to Vicente Guerrero globally, it really doesn't matter whether it's international or it's city. There's just something about when you go serve someone, God does something in your heart. It's not just God doing something through you. God does something in you, you know. And I mean, I can think of a time when we were down in Vicente Guerrero, and I'm down there, and I'm ministering, and God was just blessing me and changing me and saying, Steve, it's not about stuff, it's about helping others. These people are made in the image of God. I remember standing in this really impoverished area where it was just ugly. It was corrugated metal that these people were living in, and it was hot and it was ugly, and God was just, as I was serving these people, God was doing something deep in my soul that was rewiring me and saying, you know, these people are made in the image of God, and you've got so much, and you need to go be a blessing. And as you do that, you are transformed. God does something in you and rewires you.
Steve, you've been pastor for quite some time in this city. As a leader in the city, where do you see the church going? What's needing to happen?
What would I like to see happen, or where do I see it going? Those are probably two different questions.
Yeah.
What I'd love to see in this, here's what I'd love to see in the city. I'd love to see in the city churches, and it's my bent, so this might not be, I'd love to see the Church of Victoria gathering together to get out of its walls and go serve the city on a mass scale in different ways. So coming along nonprofit organizations that are doing good, and wouldn't it be cool, like for 5 or 6 churches in the city to come alongside an organization like Woodwind Farms, for instance, and just say, you're helping the homeless, we want to help you help the homeless, and we're going to give you a bunch of money, and we're going to give you hundreds of volunteers. Would that be cool? Would that get people talking differently about Jesus and his church in this city? The last thing we need in this city, and I know not everybody's going to agree with me, but that's pretty normal. The last thing we need in the city is more conferences where Christians from a bunch of churches get together, write in their notebooks, go home, and say, wow, that was great, and nothing changes. The church needs to get out of its walls, needs to get working together to make a big difference, and to get rally around groups like Sanctuary Youth Center and get out there and support them and say, let's be the church together in Victoria beyond our walls and beyond our holy Christian huddle. I'd love to see that happen.
Okay, the end of Going Home show. I know it's tough. It's all right. We'll be back again. It's okay. And, you know, you can come by, visit Pastor Steve at Saanich. Thank you so much for coming by. And I have one last question. Steve, where are you going?
I'm going home.
We're going home.